The president ordered the strike. Is that correct?
Which strike are you referring to?
The strike on Iran, the war that we're in.
Oh, of course. I mean, he's the commander-in-chief.
So
He's made the calls.
It sounds like you're blaming Daddy for the mess we're in, and I don't think he's going to be particularly happy with you.
I see what you're trying to do.
One Pete Hegseth just sat in front of a congressional committee 2 months into a war he helped start. A former Army officer who sat just 3 feet from Alexander Vinman during his famous impeachment testimony, decided to find out exactly how much the Secretary of War actually knows about the war he is running. The answer? Not much. Eugene Vinman asked him 3 basic questions: the price of oil today, the width of the Strait of Hormuz, and how many barrels of oil moved through that strait before the war started. Hegseth got all 3 wrong, or simply could not answer. I will give you my honest opinion on this at the end, but first, let's watch the exchange.
Thank you. Earlier, Secretary Hegseth, you talked about flexible realism. So let's see if we can figure out how much of it is realistic and how much of it is just flexible. Secretary Hegseth, last year I asked you some questions about Indo-PACOM and threats in Europe, and you had a hard time answering those questions. I'm sure you prepped better this year, and I'm hoping you can answer some of these basic questions since now we are at war. Do you know what the price of oil is today?
I don't know where it's gone as this time of this hearing, but roughly $100 a barrel.
It's actually closer to 120, 117.
Well, it depends on the index you're looking at.
I'm looking at Brent. Do you know what the price was the day before of Brent, the day before we went to war?
It was certainly lower. You understand you're taking some economic risk, but I would note
a lot lower.
The energy dominance this president has unleashed has put us in an incredible position.
Thank you. So it's $72. And so now we have a 62% increase. By the way, the department obviously will be paying those extra fuel costs. That's going to be not insignificant, but so will the American people. Now, at its narrowest point, how wide is the Strait of Hormuz?
I think it's about 12 miles, but I'd have to check.
It's 24 miles, but 12 miles is actually the relevant number because that's the navigable channel.
That's the international water navigable channel point.
And do you know how many barrels of oil transited the Strait of Hormuz each day before the war started?
I don't know the exact number, but you're looking at over 100 oil tankers usually transited a day, or 120 a day would transport the strait.
Yeah, and so 20 million barrels a day, and right now they're at an 81% reduction. So it sounds like you've done your homework. You're tracking pretty well what the strategic situation is. So a couple of questions. Were you aware that if we struck Iran, that they would most likely close the Strait of Hormuz?
Of course, our department was prepared and planning for every possible contingency, being front and center as something they may do in a desperate state to attempt to
which is what they've done,
some kind of control.
And I appreciate that. And earlier you told Mr. Moulton that this department has looked at all aspects of the risk and that the president got every possible perspective. And then recently you just said that the president did understand the risks and had the courage to undertake the endeavor nonetheless, and that's leadership, or words to that effect, pretty close. And so I just want to kind of give you the state of play right now. It's been 2 months of war. We have hopes for a resolution, but the war continues, really. Iran has closed the strait, and we've now gone in and blockaded their ports. 1/5 of the world's oil is unable to transit the strait, and the American people and the department are paying significantly more. And you also said that this is what the American people actually voted for. But actually, the American people voted for a promise not to get into Middle Eastern wars. And they voted for lower prices. And this is the exact opposite of what they got. So let me ask you this. The president ordered the strike. Is that correct?
The president's been saying for over 30 years that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. So he's been very clear as a position. When the American people voted for President Trump overwhelmingly, they voted for that position. I got that.
But the president ordered the strike. Is that correct?
Which strike are you referring to?
The strike on Iran, the war that we're in.
Oh, of course. I mean, he's the commander-in-chief. He's made the calls.
It sounds like you're blaming Daddy for the mess we're in, and I don't think he's going to be particularly happy with you.
I see what you're trying to do. There's no daylight in this administration on this
Mr.
on this
Secretary, I'm
campaign,
asking
and
the
I'm happy
questions. You've been
to
admonished
stand
for this
shoulder to shoulder
before.
with this
You're
administration.
claiming my time. So let's shift gears. Last time we were here, I asked you if you'd apologize to the mother of an F-18 pilot whose son you endangered for sharing classified information on a signal chat. You refused. On March 1st, 6 Army soldiers, including a constituent of mine, were killed by an Iranian drone strike. Do you take any responsibility for those deaths?
I was there at Dover when they came back. Of course, I take
So was I.
responsibility for every aspect
Well,
of
I
this
appreciate
mission.
that, because you also complained about the fact that tragic things happen. The news makes it front-page news. The press only wants to make the president look bad. Is it about the soldiers, or is it about the president looking bad?
It's not just the president who wants, or the media that wants to make him look bad. It's you.
It's actually about the soldiers, and it's frankly reprehensible that you would make that statement. And so, you know, Truman had a sign on his desk that said the buck stops here. And this
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes.
If you just watched that and felt a specific, uncomfortable shift in the room, I want to tell you exactly what caused that feeling. Vinman is doing something in that exchange that most congressional questioners fail to do. This isn't an attempt to catch Hegseth in a cheap gotcha moment. Vinman is building a case, one undeniable fact at a time, and letting Hegseth convict himself with his own answers. Let's walk through it. The oil questions come first, and they are deceptively simple. Brent crude is sitting at $117 today. Hegseth guesses roughly 100. He is $17 off on the most closely watched commodity price on the planet. During a war, his own department is actively fighting over a waterway that controls 20% of the world's oil supply. The day before this war started, oil was at $72. That is a 62% increase in just 60 days. That spike shows up in every grocery delivery, every heating bill, every tank of gas, and every freight shipment in this country. Yet, the man who helped decide to launch this war doesn't even know the number. Then Vinman moves to the geography of the strait itself. How wide is it at its narrowest navigable point? Hegseth says he thinks it's about 12 miles, but would have to check. The actual strait is 24 miles wide at its narrowest point, though 12 miles is the internationally recognized navigable channel. His guess happened to land in the right general territory for the wrong reason. He didn't actually know which number was relevant, or why. Next, Vinman asks how many barrels a day used to transit through it. Hegseth cannot give the number. It is 20 million barrels per day. Right now, transit is down by a staggering 81%. Here is what makes those numbers politically devastating, rather than just technically incorrect. Hegseth told the committee earlier in the hearing that the department thoroughly evaluated every possible risk before this war started, that the president received every perspective, and that Trump understood the consequences and had the courage to act anyway. Vinman takes him entirely at his word, then simply reads the receipts of what has actually happened. Iran closed the strait. The U.S. blockaded Iranian ports in response. 1/5 of the world's oil supply is frozen. The American people voted for lower prices and no Middle Eastern wars, and they got the exact opposite. Vinman doesn't need to editorialize. The facts do the talking. Then she asks who gave the order. Hegseth initially asks which strike she is referring to, as if there is some ambiguity about the war they've been discussing for the last 4 minutes. Vinman clarifies, the war with Iran. Hegseth confirms the president gave the order, which makes sense, as he is the commander-in-chief. But then, Hegseth says something that belongs in a category of its own. He tells Vinman it sounds like she is blaming Daddy for the mess we're in, and warns her that the president is not going to be particularly happy about that line of questioning. Let that sink in. The Secretary of War, in a formal congressional hearing about an active conflict, warns a member of Congress that the president won't like her asking who ordered the war. That is not a policy defense. That is a blatant threat from a man who has completely run out of arguments. Then comes the part that shifts the entire tone of the room. Vinman reminds Hegseth of their last hearing, where she asked him to apologize to the mother of an F-18 pilot whose life he endangered by broadcasting classified strike details over an unsecured signal chat. He refused. The Pentagon's Inspector General subsequently confirmed that what Hegseth shared was taken nearly word for word from a classified Central Command document, creating genuine risk to those pilots and the mission. He never apologized. Finally, Vinman brings up March 1st, the first day of the war, when 6 Army Reserve soldiers were killed by an Iranian drone in Kuwait. She asks Hegseth if he takes any responsibility for those deaths. He responds that he was at Dover when the bodies came home, so, of course, he takes responsibility. But in the exact same breath, he complains that the press only puts those deaths on the front page to make the president look bad. And that is where Vinman draws the line. Without raising his voice or pausing for dramatic effect, Vinman states plainly that it is reprehensible to suggest that news coverage of 6 dead American soldiers is about embarrassing the president rather than about honoring the soldiers themselves. Vinman closes by invoking the famous sign that sat on Harry Truman's desk. The buck stops here, and with that, his time expired. Here is my take. What Vinman exposed in those 5 minutes is not just factual ignorance about oil prices and shipping lanes. It is a fundamental failure of operational ownership. The man running this war got the basic numbers wrong. He warned a congressional representative that the president would be unhappy with her questions. He implied that dead American soldiers are just a media narrative meant to damage a political image. He has never apologized for leaking data that endangered active pilots. And when asked if the buck stops with him for the soldiers who died on day 1, his mind wandered immediately to the press and the president's approval ratings. Truman's sign said the buck stops here. Based on everything documented in that hearing, nobody in this administration seems to know where here actually is. I really appreciate you watching. Make sure to check out this next video on screen, and if you want more deep dive breakdowns like this, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below to tell me what you think.